Hi, I'm Paris, and after my failed attempt to climb Guadalupe Peak, the highest point in Texas, 2 months ago, I sort of took a more laid-back approach to my daily walks. I wasn't out there doing the 3 to 5 miles every morning. Some mornings I wasn't walking at all, and that turned out to be a big mistake. Going on my third year of dealing with cancer treatment side effects, I've learned that momentum is your best friend. If you have it, you can ride it through the rough days, but if you lose that momentum, boy, do things start spiraling down fast. So fast that even some boost oxygen, it's hard to pull you out of that tailspin. For the first time in my life, I think I've experienced fatigue. Now, I have been exhausted at times in my life, of course, sleepy, tired, lots of other words to describe how I felt, but nothing like how I've felt several times now in the past, I would say 2 or 3 weeks. This feeling, which I assume is fatigue, it's like when I'm out mowing the lawn, I use a corded electric lawnmower, and you're trying to get that grass in the corner that's just beyond where the cord will reach, and as soon as you push too far, the cord unplugs and the mower just goes, and it will not cut another blade of grass. That's the experience I've had. Just almost out of nowhere. It happened the very first time. It was in the evening, like right around dinner time, 6:30 or so. Don't know if I'd eaten beforehand or not, but just this feeling like I had just walked too far and the plug had come undone, and I basically had energy to sit where I was. I did not want to be involved in anything anyone was doing. I just, leave me here to my own fatigue devices, and the rest of the world, you just go on with what you're doing. I really have no interest. Was not a good feeling. I usually get online in the evenings to play some StarCraft or Overwatch with my brother up in Washington State. We do about an hour of that, and then I go to bed, but I did not have the energy for that. I went to bed, but I wasn't tired. I mean, I wasn't sleepy. And anyway, a quote that I saw recently looking this up to see which of the cancer treatments that I've had, the side effect include fatigue. Turns out all of them do. There was an interesting saying, which is cancer fatigue can't be outslept and it can't be outrested, because it's not that you need sleep and it's not that you need rest. And even though that's the inclination is, I'm just going to go to bed, I'm going to sleep, I'm going to rest, something like that. Whatever it is, the physical part of it, the psychological part of it that puts you there, that's actually the worst thing to do in terms of getting past the fatigue. Though it seems counterintuitive, fatigue responds best to exercise and keeping busy, the two things you really don't feel like doing once the fatigue has set in. So that first evening when I experienced that strong feeling of fatigue and just went to bed at 8 o'clock or something, and the next morning I felt my usual self again. I thought, well, maybe that's a one-time thing. But a few evenings later, got me again, and it's then, of course, once it's happened for the second time, then you start feeling that now I got to watch out for it. Is this thing going to catch up and happen to me even more often? So I guess again, I probably didn't go online, had no energy, just went to bed early. The next morning, I'm back doing usual things, but then either that day or the next day, it hit me at noontime, at lunchtime. And I said to myself, no, we are not going down this path. So in the short term, I did crash on the sofa that afternoon, but I'm thinking to myself, can't let this get started, because once the momentum becomes no momentum, when it becomes inertia and not moving, how am I going to get out of this? And I thought to myself, well, what's changed in the last month or so? Oh yeah, I'm not out there walking, I'm not being as active, so I realized I've got to do something, whether it's that or something. I've got to get the activity, the exercise, some kind of a project going. Now, my project had been climbing numerous peaks and high points of various states, and I still have a kind of cut back plan of doing that later this summer, but I need something right now. So I turned to my garden. Lots of work that I've put off doing out there in the backyard. I'd like to revamp the date palm trees that I have that are all root bound now. I transplanted date palms, and my early birthday gift, my very first pygmy date palm. rescued from the clearance half-price section. A little bit brown around the edges, needs some tender loving care. Well, I need a project. It needs some tender loving care. This is a perfect match. So as an early birthday present, my family bought me my first pygmy date palm. So every morning this week, well, it's still moderately cool, if you can call 78 degrees moderately cool, I have been out for 45 minutes hefting bags of soil and bags of rocks and sand and pots and swapping out those palm trees into the larger planters and breaking out a sweat, and my Fitbit telling me I've done a 45 minutes of cardio exercise, so exactly what I needed, and things have improved. But there's only so much work to do in a small garden, and so I'm already on the lookout for my next project that's got to include lots of physical activity, but I'd also like, just with the garden, for it to show me something when I'm done. So one thing with the walking is it's great when you're doing it, but when you're done, there's nothing you can point to and say, look at that, that's nice, I did that. So walking is great, but it wasn't providing what I needed in terms of some feedback of having actually created something. So that's what I'm on the lookout for right now. Now the physical fatigue has sort of come in waves and then it passes, so I'm hoping there will be less and less of that going forward. But there is something else I've noticed too, and I think this is also a momentum issue, is I haven't kept my mind quite as sharp, and boy, once you let that start to go too, it's a quick slide down. For example, I was watching a show with my daughter on TV, and the commercial, it was a streaming channel, and the commercials came on, and it was something about, I just saw two older women with drinks, and I kind of partially tuned it out, and they were talking about Marg. It was very annoying. That's all I remember about it. And at the end of it, I said to my daughter, gosh, what an annoying commercial. And she said, yeah, but that's Pam and Angela. And I said, you mean from The Office, Pam and Angela? She said, yeah. I said, no, it was two old women there with drinks. My brain didn't even take the time to focus on it and recognize these two very recognizable people. I actually had to go to YouTube then and take a look and see. I found the commercial and played it. Sure, of course I recognize them. How did I not recognize them when it was on TV? But my brain just sort of zoned out, and I found it's been doing that more and more. I have to force myself to pay attention. Well, I mean, what does it matter on the TV commercial? But if someone's telling a story and there's a joke and you kind of, woo, the mind wanders, you miss the whole thing. So I'm not as good at keeping sharp focus on that sort of stuff. I think my attention span has probably gotten shorter, and I think that probably fits right in with that feeling of fatigue. It's a kind of brain fatigue. I haven't been reading as much as I used to. I enjoy reading, but my mind just sort of wanders away after a few pages now. So maybe I need to find some super engrossing thriller story that will keep my attention, that will rivet my attention, get me back into doing that. And even with posting videos, I have a number of reviews of products that I've already recorded some of it, or I've got in my mind what I want to investigate about it. But where's the production? It's just haven't had the energy, just haven't had the focus to put them together and make them happen. Next to my seat in the living room, I have a little end table with a stack of books that are puzzles, crossword puzzles, logic puzzles, Sudoku, all of that kind of stuff to keep me mentally sharp. And the stack is just as high as it was a couple months ago because I'm not going through and working on it and working out my brain. So I don't feel that I'm lacking the tools to fight this physical fatigue and the mental malaise, but I don't seem to be putting them to good use. I guess I need to dig deep to bring up the motivation, to force myself to go through, do those mentally challenging puzzles to keep myself somewhat mentally sharp, instead of just turning on the TV and putting on another episode of Below Deck, which is what I'm currently binging. Talk about mindless. It's exactly the kind of show that my mother and father would tell me, that kind of junk will rot your brain. And sure enough, it is. So I've got to nip this in the bud. I have one more Lupron shot in August that will keep my testosterone down into mid-fall, and then it should start coming back up, and hopefully that will provide a hormonal improvement. That should help a lot with the physical fatigue and the mental fatigue, but I can't wait till the end of fall for my brain and body to work. I need to keep on top of this now. When I come up with some creative ideas for how to accomplish that, I will certainly share them in a video. I know I'm not the only one being beaten down by cancer treatment side effects and holding on by the fingertips to the edge of the well, trying not to fall down into that hole. So if you're in the same boat, hang in there. But remember, if that boat happens to be below deck Mediterranean or below deck sailing yacht or one of the many below deck series of which I watch far too many, that boat is not going to get you where you need to go. You got to find that remote and turn off the TV and put the brain to work, put the body to work. That's the only way to get through it. And I'll see you on the next review.
There are so many choices and you don't want to stress. You want your health food at home, receiving only the best. That's what we're here for. We give honest reviews. parristx.